Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Peace and Happiness, and welcome to this special program celebrating Total Fitness Day. Also, Happy New Year to all of you. We just started our new year 6 days ago, and whenever there's a new year, we all feel collective surge in our optimism. We make a fresh start, we make resolutions, we set new goals. And today we are bringing to you a discussion on total fitness, a new concept of fitness that if we embrace and if you instill and achieve, will help you have a triumphant year, no matter what the year throws at you. I mean, we have begun a new year. We don't know what happened. Some things are under our control, other things aren't. And life is always that way. But there are certain attributes, physical, mental, social, and spiritual, that if a human being nurtures within oneself, no matter what the circumstances, he or she can have a healthy, happy, successful, fulfilling, abundant life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I am really happy we have with us today Dr. Abdullah Yusuf, who is an American board certified licensed physician who specializes in family medicine and osteopathic manipulative treatment. He worked in the US for a long time, and after a while he went back to Bangladesh, where he's now the managing director and chief medical advisor at Back in Motion Limited, American Health and Wellness Center. Welcome, Abdullah Bhai. We're looking forward to a very interesting discussion. I also have with me Asif Shahriar, who is currently a final year PhD student at the University of Bolton in UK. He's also a research associate in the South Westphalia University of Applied Sciences in Düsseldorf, Germany. Welcome, Asif. And finally, we have with us Fahmida Yasmin Tania. Tania is a researcher in environmental science and paleoclimatology, and she's based in Heidelberg, Germany. And all four of us are also long-term meditators and members of the Quantum Foundation and have been working with the Quantum Foundation in various capacities. Without further delay, let's just jump right in. When I was introducing the program, I was saying that we think of total fitness as a combination of mental, physical, social, and spiritual attributes. And my first question would be to Abdullah Bhai, who is an expert on physical fitness. And I would like to ask you, Abdullah Bhai, how would you define physical fitness? And why do you think we need to broaden the definition of physical fitness?
Thank you, Banani. First of all, it's wonderful to be here today. And when we are celebrating for the first time Total Fitness Day, actually Total Fitness is not really a new thing. If you look at the definition of health in World Health Organization, it talks about physical, mental, and social well-being. Nowadays, we are so busy, we just focus on physical part. We forget that we are a human being, we have mental, emotional, social, spiritual aspects. So we are just trying to remind something that which should have been already in place. But if you define physical fitness, most of the time, the imagination comes a gym, right? A gym, somebody's working out, or you can look at 6-pack, 8-packs. No more we think of as a physically fit person. Bodybuilding and physical fitness is not really same. For a better definition of physical fitness would be somebody who can work at their working place, or as a student, or as a family person working tirelessly. They are not really drained at the end of the day. And there is also a holistic part. We cannot really achieve physical fitness without being mentally fit, without being socially fit, without being spiritually fit. And as a physician, I'm also an osteopathic manipulative treatment expert. So I work with my hand. I see patients with lots of pain, back pain, neck pain. And sometimes what happens is they would come for a treatment. I would treat them for 2-3 sessions. Their pain would decrease. Their muscle spasm will go down. But some people, it would come back. That's interesting. And I can give a quick example of a patient who was about 50 years plus, female patient, and we treated her a few sessions. Her pain went down. When we started giving break, like 1 day off, 2 day off, and her pain was coming back, then I started inquiring about her other issues, mental, emotional issues. And then one day she opened up and started telling her story when she got married, how she was abused by her in-laws and how it affected her mentally. Although it's like more than 20 years, she's living separately. She has her own family, own children, own freedom, but still she can't let that go, the abuse she felt. And that kind of left a scar on her. And that was causing part of her back pain and bodily spasm. Like without addressing those, you can't get a person physically better fully.
That's really interesting, Abdullah. I mean, there is just so many interesting points in what you just said. I want to re-emphasize that you define physical fitness mostly as the amount of a person's energy and vitality. You kind of made it very clear that a specific shape and size is not what defines physical fitness. And I wanted to re-emphasize that because in today's world, there's just such an obsession with a specific weight, a specific shape, a specific size. We have always said that for a human being, it is very important to accept the physical attributes we are born with. We've heard our meditation teacher say something many times, that we're all born with the skin color, the height, the shape that is most appropriate for our unique mission on earth. It's really important what you say, that we should not get obsessed with a specific shape. And then the second thing you mentioned, Abdullah Bhai, is the link between physical fitness and mental fitness. The lady you mentioned, her pain, even though it manifested in the body, was actually due to some repressed emotions that she didn't know how to let go of.
If I would add, this is not only in one patient. I mean, when I moved from USA to Bangladesh, initially I thought Bangladesh people would have less stress. But I realized when coming here, 90 to 95% of patient has some sort of mental, emotional aspect on them. And that does affect their body a lot. And I mean, although this was from a suppression, and there was another patient, I would say, she was suffering from a similar pain, but in her scenario, it was her dying husband. He had a stroke and he was about to die, but he's like lingering in quite a few months, and she did not know what to do. And that was her pain coming and going. No matter what I do, it decreases. Then a few days later, it comes back. And finally, when her husband passed away and she accepted after a few months, then she slowly recovered.
It's not surprising to us because we have learned that 75% of diseases are psychosomatic, that even though the manifestation of the disease is in the body, its origin is usually often in the mind. I also heard that in the US, 90% or above of all doctors' visits to the doctor are caused by something related to stress. All the ailments are somehow related to stress. But that's why we emphasize the interconnectedness of all these fitnesses. That is why it's important to be mentally fit. That is why it is important to know what to do with emotions. Like, how do we just suppress them? Do we just go like robots? No, that doesn't work either, does it? We really need to dig deep and learn about how we can make our own minds not our worst enemies, because that's what happens with us, doesn't it? Like, we really don't know how to channel our mind and our mind's energy so that it is a supportive force in our life in achieving our goals, rather than something that brings us down, makes us depressed, makes us unhealthy.
I want to add something here. Like we were talking about energy, and there is a famous saying that where mind goes, energy flows. And that bring the different paradigm. I would say it's very important. The mental fitness, the energy, everything in one parallel line, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tania. I think that's really important. And that's why we need to train our minds to dwell on the positive. So one of the characteristics of mental fitness, we would say, is somebody who can be, by and large, mostly positive, optimistic, hopeful. Most of the time, they can be in a positive state. And that will necessarily naturally come to people, right? Because we do know that the human mind does have a negativity bias. And that has come from evolution, where when we're in the forest, when we go one day and we meet the tiger in a certain area, it's very important for my brain to remember that, so that next day I avoid the danger, right?
Same thing happens like this, like whenever there is a phone rings, right? Most of the time we think there is a tiger calling us, because
Yes.
like rarely we think it's a positive news. And sometimes
Yes.
if at night, you think, okay, it's coming, must be a emergency, something negative. So that's how we can feel. How many times we can think if there is a phone call and it's positive versus negative,
right? Because your mind is so conditioned to focus on the negative, because we were in the survival mode. We need to remember that to keep safe in the future. If we don't make an extra effort, our mind will dwell on the negative experiences of the day. But if we neutrally go through the day, we will see that maybe those 3 negative experiences were interspersed with 10 positive experiences, right? So it is something that really we need to make a conscious choice about and need to train ourselves. And if we do that, because Tania so nicely said, where our mind goes, energy flows. And when our mind goes to the positive in our lives, our energy increases. That is very important for physical fitness. I would also say that just managing stress, and what I mean by managing stress is like being able to face the ups and downs of life calmly. I think all of us, before we learned about the importance of mindset, would get very affected by what would happen on the outside. Like I know for myself, when I was a teenager and then some auntie in our campus said something negative about me, like that would bother me for days. It would be a big deal. But then once I learned about a proactive mindset, my mind is mine, and anything can happen in the external world, but I always have the freedom of deciding how to respond to it. I don't have to react to it. I can choose how to respond to it. Once I learned that, then the life become much more under my control.
Because there is nobody can really guarantee that there won't be a stressful situation. So everybody face a stressful situation in their life. If you say, okay, when I was a child, there wasn't no stress. That's not true. Even the child feels stress when they feel hungry, because they doesn't know if the food is coming or not. So they will cry, right? Then the mother respond or whoever taking care of the child. So that every step of your life, different age, different scenarios, different country, everyone has a stress. The person who can handle the stress better, then they would be more mentally fit. And if they're not capable of taking care of the stress well, that will affect their physical fitness. That will affect their well-being. That trains your mind so you can handle the stress. Everybody has a stress, but can I handle it better?
Absolutely. And I mean, the way I think of it is like the external things, I think of this as stressor. And then whether I will react in a stressed way, whether I will experience stress within my body or not, depends. Another thing that all of us face is, no matter how positive we are and we're trying to be proactive, we will always face setbacks. We will always face challenges. We'll face temporary failure. And I think one important characteristic of mental fitness is resilience. Whether you can get back up after you fall down. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down, whether if you have fell down 9 times, have you been able to get up 10 times? So that one extra time you got up, that's what makes all the difference. I think that people who are trying to attain mental fitness are conscious of it. They understand that there will be challenges. Not everything will go according to plan. But I have this freedom of looking at a problem and trying to find the opportunity in it, which is what all of us, I think, have gotten training at. Like whenever adversity comes, I'm like, where is the opportunity? Where is the opportunity in this? What do I have to learn from this? How can I turn it into a force for me? But do you agree? Like, do you have any experiences? Do you think that where you felt like before maybe you would have given up or you have reacted negatively, but now you have actually turned it into an opportunity? Do any of you have any stories to share?
Maybe I can talk about, it's more like a real incident, what happened with my twins. So they were playing, and then there were some 2 cups of coffees on the table, and my son just tried to take something, and then the coffee fell down on his head. Thank God it was not that much warm, but we were, as a parent, were super scared, you can imagine. At that time, we were stressed, tensed. But at the same time, it's me and my wife in the home, and there's nobody else. We just think, okay, wait for a moment. Let's not panic. Let's see what's happening. What should we do? We try to understand the situation and trying to find a solution that, okay, so we bring the kids up and then trying to get some water, or then take the clothes out. And so just getting some instant first aids. To be honest, in the first moment, you got blank, right? That you don't know what to do. And then if I'm panicking, things might get more worse. So that sometimes this mental fitness, or as you're saying, Banani Appa, that how can we control, like how I'm seeing the challenge and how I'm trying to cope up with that.
There is a saying, life is a trust, life is a test. So any difficulty comes, if you think it's a test for me, how can I overcome it? Then you will get the opportunity, as Banani Appa mentioned before. So you'll be able to take that opportunity, take some learning.
And I think something we were able to do as an organization is a very, very good example of this, like how going back to mental fitness, focus and clarity and consistency, because that's something what happens to many of us is like we start something with a lot of enthusiasm, but then it dwindles down. And that's something that costs us a lot. We have to have the mental strength to stick to whatever intention we set. So I think that is also something that we think of when we mention mental fitness. And let's move on to social fitness. I would like to ask Asif, like, can you just tell us a little bit about how our social lives affect the other aspects of our life? Why is social fitness so important? Like, how does it affect our health or physical fitness, for example?
All right. Thank you very much, Banani Appa. As you can see, that human being, we are social, right? Like we are mammals, and we like to be in a group. And once you try to extract yourself from society, or trying to be isolated, or trying to be alone, then all these human natures that we cultivate or that we have within ourselves, that comes to a threat. We try to lose our humanity, our human nature. Social fitness, like to become more social. And if you just try to understand, one of the example would be very interesting for us, that if you just think of opposite of it. So what is not social fitness? If you see those people, those who are lonely, it's more like an endemic, right? Like you can see it's kind of like a more contagious, especially among youngs, millennials, and of course the adults. And in 2009, Dr. Nicholas Christakis, he wrote an article, and he mentioned one thing, that loneliness is so bad that it's kind of like destabilized an entire social network. and even one lonely person can do so. So that's why we say it's more like a contagious thing. And he mentioned that if you're lonely, you can transmit this loneliness. And there are several interesting surveys. And those surveys, they're saying that in America, the number of Americans, they did the study since 1985, and they figured out that most of the people, they have almost close to zero that they can share their like information or like as a friend, close friend. And that's kind of a bit scary, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like we don't have a single person we feel like we can share our deepest things with. Loneliness is not the same as solitude. Either I'm alone and I'm craving company, I want to be with someone, or maybe even I am with people, but I still feel lonely because I don't feel the connection, or I don't feel like I can share or something. Loneliness is just not painful. It has a lot of impact on physical health. There was one study that said that loneliness is like just as lethal, like it can cause death as much as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. So if someone is smoking, if someone,
that's right. And Banani, I want to mention here also, like loneliness is going to be the next pandemic.
Yes, that's Asif was saying that. Yes, yeah, it is. I think it's already.
Another part I can add this, as he's mentioning about social fitness. The social media, I have to blame, or we all know some part plays the role, because most of us in social media, we felt pressure to portray ourselves as our best. So in social media, we have lots of friends. In media, we are talking with a lot of people, but we are being at our best, right? We are so happy. So if someone is not feeling so happy, they don't feel like I can share with you. That's when the loneliness starts. And the COVID did not really help us. And when you knew it's a deadly disease, or you're thinking I'm going to die, and it's contagious, we stop sharing our unhealthiness. Usually what happens when you see a child got sick, they would come to their parents. Parents would say, oh, it's nothing, it will be better. They feel comfort, right? That touch, that physical touch, comfort, helpful. But what social media is doing, and we are not talking about that part.
I can also add a small analysis here. There was a study in University of Birmingham Young University, and they did study from 1908 until 2014. This is a meta study, and they figured out that people who are isolated, they have 30% higher chances of dying than those who are regularly socially in contact. So this is a very, very interesting statistics, and also loneliness is very closely related to several diseases that, as Abdullah had mentioned, like depression, anxiety, suicide. They have more tendency to go for suicide, and so on. And also it leads to different diseases like Alzheimer's. And interestingly, in Europe, especially in Germany, I was looking for some data, and then I found that until 2018, 2% of the population in Germany, they are having Alzheimer's, and this is mostly related to loneliness. And this number will be increasing in 2050. It might be around 3.8% of the entire population. So as Tania was also saying, that it's kind of like more like a pandemic or endemic, right? So we need to be more socially engaged.
There's also connection between loneliness and heart disease and stroke and the things that we're really afraid of. But then on the other hand, if we try to look at what make people live long, the studies that have looked at what makes people live long, we see that the time and again, the things that come up are close relationships and social integration. There's the longest study on happiness, the Harvard University study, and they tried to see what makes the most difference in health and happiness. And their surprising findings was like close relationships, the person who had a close relationship at 50 was the healthiest at 80.
One of the studies, for example, like it says that happy people, those who are happy, they make more social connections. So it's from Martin Seligman. He mentioned about this particular part that happy people, they have more social connection. They go for social communication. They have more stronger side in this area. And also there is another study from Nick Eplis, and then they said that very happy people, they tend to spend more time with their friends and loved ones. Even if you're traveling, maybe in a train, and then even if you talk to a stranger, your well-being rises. You are becoming much more better. You feel better. So when you're interacting with strangers, even.
And the study I was referring to before, and this is the study by Julian Lundstad. So she tried to figure out what affects longevity. So she looked at many different factors. So she followed a group of elderly people. She looked at clean air, she looked at exercise, she looked at their diet, she looked at whether they're married or not, how often they went to see the doctor, whether they smoked, drank, everything you think had some impact on health. And then based on the impact, she made a list of like 1 to 10, like the top 10 predictors of death, preventing death. In number 10 was like clean air. So if you live in a place with clean air, yes, it does have an effect on your lifespan, but that was in number 10. And things like, do you go to the doctor if you have hypertension? Do you get your hypertension treated? In places like 4 and 3, there were things like, did you give up smoking? Did you give up alcohol? Things that are harmful. But guess what number 2 was and number 1 was? Number 2 is your close relationship, and the number 1 is social integration, which basically means like how much you interact with people as you go on in your day. Like, are you so both your weak bonds and your strong bonds. So do you talk to the person who gave you coffee at Starbucks? Did you say hello, or were you just in your own world? Or did you talk to the postman? Did you talk to the person you meet on the street who is walking their dog? Maybe go and maybe spend some time in some social club, doing something together, volunteering, that sort of thing. That's how strongly our longevity is connected to our social life. So spending a lot of time on social media is not the same as social life. I mean, it's not the same as having a fulfilling social life, or you won't get the benefits of a fulfilling social life if you spend a lot of time in the virtual world. It's actually the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for social media, because it's based on a principle we called strength of weak ties. Okay, so we think that we are highly connected, but the ties are very weak there. We can have thousands of friends in social media. Still, whenever we need someone really, when I'm upset or sad, someone comes beside me and put his hand on my shoulder and telling me everything is okay. It's very hard to find nowadays. And that's why I was mentioning that especially in millennials, for them, this loneliness started after when the internet market got viral. Kind of like loneliness, isolation started, especially when 2 years after, when Apple launched its first commercial personal computer. And that's a very interesting study. And also when World Wide Web comes, or our website, Web 2.0 comes, all this loneliness becomes much more higher. That has a huge impact on our society at the moment, that we think we are highly connected, socially connected, but basically we are not getting out from this square screen. I can give you one of the very real example that how much it affects our social fitness, that we think that virtual connection or staying in front of a computer or in a screen makes us more social. But actually, on the other hand, we are losing a lot of our social skills. For example, as a person, myself, I'm a bit like, I like to talk to people, new people, and I have no problem standing in front of people and talk for hours within any topic. And I was doing the same. That's also during the COVID time. So we were attending several conferences, having our classes, lectures, seminars, meetings, everything was online. So the last 2 years, we were completely focusing only on this square screen, and we are practicing our social skills, right? Or doing our daily job. Everything was fine. I thought I am doing something really good. No problem. Everything's working fine. But when I back to my normal life, starting from this year, and then I went to the conferences or meeting with a colleague, initially, I was very hesitant to talk to people. All my social skills, like to talk, or I was sometimes losing my words. I don't know how to start, how to interact with people in face-to-face, because whenever you are virtually connected with the people, you can do whatever you want. You turn off your camera. I don't want to show you my face. You can say or write, do whatever, or you can give some excuses. But whenever we are interacting people face to face, that's a complete different chapter. To be honest, I really lost my several skills, or it was like I was less skilled, and it took me time to come back. I'm still recovering, to be honest.
That's just so interesting. Yeah, it really does have an impact, doesn't it? And I know, like,
by default, human nature is not isolating nature. It's like we were in the world and it was a lot of challenges. Then we were in touch of people, right? So touching by hand and get in touch by social media is not the same. And I want to share one experience that on last year I was in Bangladesh, and I have seen, especially elderly people, they want to talk more. And I got a feeling that probably they don't have a lot of people to talk even. Just sitting beside and listen what they are telling, it is a kind of blissful, and I got the feeling, okay, I'm doing something good.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's like countries like the UK, we had to appoint a minister for loneliness because the elderly people there, they don't have enough people to talk to. I mean, it really is very sad. And, I mean, since you did talk about that, another thing that pains me a lot is like how children are being brought up. Dr. Bruce Perry, who is like America's leading childhood trauma expert, and he mentioned that a child today is growing up with 124th of the relational contact, the amount of relational contact children had for 99.9% of human history. So for 99.9% of human history, children had so much contact with other people when they're growing up. And then all of a sudden, with what children these days are getting, like 1 over 124. It's just, of course, they can grow up socially skilled. I do have one final question for you, Asif. I mean, in this round, we talked a lot about people's social needs not being met and what impact that is having. We talked about loneliness. When we talk about social fitness, it's something else, right? So paint us a picture of a socially fit person. What does a socially fit person look like? What are we trying to attain?
Whenever we are socially engaged, our daily life, daily activities, and then we are going to our work, meeting our families or friends, what we expect from others. For example, like whenever you're going to any offices and then say, okay, this person should talk to me very kindly, or I expect my parents to talk to me like this way, or I want this person to be less angry. So if we just try to define what social fitness is, it's whatever you would like to see in others in a good way. That same attributes you should have, or we should have within ourselves. And this is how we can define social fitness.
That's very nice. We all like being with somebody who listens with a lot of attention. We all like being heard, for example. We all like being with people with whom we feel accepted and not judged. So be a good listener, be an accepting person, be somebody who people feel safe with and not judged with.
Yes. For example, like if we want others to be reliable, dependable, trustable, right? So these are all kind of attributes that we're looking for in others. So once we have that, once we try to adopt them, or once we try to, because these are already engraved within ourselves, somehow we lose it because we are having some other ideas or something. So this is actually, we already have it. It's just about to encourage ourselves to retrieve it. That's the idea.
Yeah, it's a lost part of ourselves we have to get in touch with. Yeah, that's a very nice way of putting it. And so then let's move on to the final aspect of total fitness. Tania, why is spiritual fitness important? I know you are someone who feels very strongly about spiritual fitness, as do I. Why don't you explain for our viewers why you think spiritual fitness is so important and what you mean when you mention the term spiritual fitness?
Thank you for giving me the floor. So in the fitness program, I would say it's very important. Fitness is spiritual fitness. So there is an interesting saying that what goes around comes around. So the spiritual fitness asks the question again and again, the work I'm doing, is it purposeful? Is it good or is it bad? If it is it good for me or good for others? So if both answers are yes, then we can go for it. If one of them are not yes, then we might not go for that because there is an intention behind the work. So at the same time, it raises the question of consciousness. So how consciously we are doing the work, and is it good or bad? That means we want to find out the purpose of our life, because naturally we are human being and we want to find the greater purpose. The inner well-being also depends on those answers. The answers could be big and bigger, but on those answers, our life actually hold on. And we also know that maybe sometimes we ask the question like who we are and what are we doing in this world. So find out the purpose of life is very important. And finding out these questions, giving us the inner business. And those inner business could bring the successful life. It could bring a lot of happiness and the sense of fulfillment, which is very important. And I would say this is the mother of all fitness.
Yeah, that's very nice. I mean, you already touched upon why you think it's the mother of all fitness, because you were talking about a spiritual person tries to live life very intentionally, very consciously, and whatever we're doing, we're trying to see through the lens of whether it is beneficial for us and others or whether it's harmful. So if it's something that's beneficial for us and others, we go ahead and do it. And that aspect of it impacts every aspect of our life, doesn't it? Like the other day you were talking about, you're giving us an example of how someone who's intentional will automatically make the right choices in terms of food, right? Can you remind us that?
Oh, sure. I mean, the life is all about choice. And most of the time we have several choices to make. So if I go to take any food, mostly there are two options. I can go for fast food or I can go for good, healthy snacks. For example, it could be nuts, it could be some salads. So if I go for fast food, in the short term, okay, I can fulfill myself. But in the long term, what happens? I will get a bulky physical body, and it will hamper my physical fitness and also my mental fitness. So these all are attached, and being purposeful, being very conscious when we are making choices is very important. I can give another example about my friend. She is a doctor now. So while she was studying, she wanted to be a good doctor so that she can help many people. So this big picture helped him to become a good doctor. So when we have this greater purpose, a big picture, that could bring a lot of successful things in our life, successful gifts, because life is a gift, right? And we will never get it back. If we want to let our life fly, we should go for something very consciousness.
I hear what you're saying, Tania. I think, and that example of the choice between organic food or healthy food versus fast food, I mean, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that. I think a lot of us also don't realize is that how much happier we feel once we have some meaning and purpose in our life. So when you're asking these big questions, what am I here for? And you're looking for a purpose in your life, and you are trying to live your life so that you leave the world a little better than you found it. It really increases our well-being, but we don't necessarily know that until we experience it. Unfortunately, we're not very good at knowing what will cause us joy. I mean, that's one of the, quandaries of human life. The things we think will make us happy don't necessarily always end up making us happy. But then other things like that, we may not necessarily think about so much, but actually brings us a lot of joy, all of us, a lot of joy when we feel like we've touched someone else. That's really nice. That
I
is
also think that the way Tania mentioned about this is the mother of all fitness. I think it's so true, because when you have the big picture, that what is your ultimate objective? Now, it can be anything. It can be anything. But once you relay that, okay, I want to go there, and then it needs to be physically fit. You need to have a good mental stability, and it also needs to be much more socially connected. So that you can really expose all your human attributes. You can see how it's connected with every single fitnesses.
I think we had a very interesting discussion. So what I'd like to do now, and I think what our viewers would really like for us to give us some very concrete tips. So, if I'm a viewer, I'm convinced that, okay, I want to be totally fit. I want to attain total fitness. How do I do it? Where do I start? It's because we talked about lots of things. So let me go to Abdullah Bhai and ask for just a very few simple tips that anyone can start implementing today to attain physical fitness.
Most of us want to know, so fine, what to do, right? One, Banani just already mentioned, it's the first, your attitude towards the physical fitness, right? It needs to be holistic. It's not just about your body. It's about your mental health. It's about your physical health, of course. It's also about your emotional health, spiritual health, social health. So all together, that's attitude that it depends on everything else. Second thing, you of course have to talk about food also. You have a choice what kind of food you want to eat, the fast food or the healthy food. But if you look at the food part, it would be probably a whole different discussion if we're going to go into details. But if we just look some of the things you want to eat, some of the things you would like to avoid, right? Also, there is when should I eat, what should I eat, how much should I eat? Those things also matters, right? Some of the food you will be eating, it will make you unhealthy. Sometimes if you eat, let's say, if you're eating really late, that's not healthy, right? And what kind of food you should be avoiding, like sugar, like we also call white poison is white sugar, soda or soft drinks, those you should be avoid. There are people who lives on fast food, who lives abroad, some of them who doesn't have family, they lives on fast food or only soda. I'm also talk about our parents, how they are feeding our children. That also matters. Because like there was a parent who was saying, my child doesn't drink water. So you ask, well, what do they drink then? Yeah, they only drink soda. And they're kind of proud saying about their children, okay, my child doesn't drink water. And also, some carbs, like as a cultural, Bengali people eat a lot of rice, and we like to eat white rice. It used to be like a bigger reddish rice before, but now even the village people doesn't eat that. We are not that poor that we have to eat red rice anymore. So all this white rice becoming 100% sugar in your body. So that's affecting you. And we don't have less and less activity. The more economically Bangladesh is changing, and when we are earning more money, we are moving less. We are using car. Now we don't really walk anymore. We are not doing enough activity to burn our calorie. So of course it's adding up. Our stomach system versus tiger's stomach system, or cow stomach system. Like tiger is only eating meat. versus our, and also someone who is only eating grass. Our stomach is not like tiger, so there is like a mix. So we are not supposed to eat that much meat. We are not supposed to eat that much processed food. That's why we are getting so much heart disease with the food, and diabetes, etc., etc. The tiger doesn't have any problem, right? It's only eat meats. It doesn't eat grass. It doesn't eat any vegetable, but still tiger is like so much muscular. It runs so fast, right? But what if you start cooking the meat for the tiger, cook it, make it like a kalabuna, then keep feeding it 3 times a day, then you will see what happens to the tiger. It will also start having heart attack. You know what I mean? So how healthy you will feel. So we are what we eat. A lot of children, they are growing up watching YouTube, because if the child is in front of YouTube, then they eat more. And, that actually causing a lot of children, young children, to become autistic. There has real effect how you raise your children. Some activity part, if you want to talk about, of course, we need to be active. If we are just sitting in front of a computer, if we are living sedentary life, watching TV, video games, we are not really moving around. When you go outside, you start moving, and that helpful. There is a suggestion that at least 4 or 5 days you should be having some kind of exercise. And there is a good form of exercise is yoga. Yoga doesn't really mean a position, but like every position will be different for each person. So any suggestion you receive about food, any suggestion you receive about exercise, always think it needs to be personalized. One person can probably raise their hand this much. That might be perfectly fine for them, but you may only go up to here. If you keep pushing without knowing your limit, you might injure yourself. So it starts from where you can comfortable, then you stretch or you push a little bit. One of the exercise our honorable teacher mentioned is Bangashan. In Bengali, you call it like a deep squat. When you can sit pretty low on the ground, keeping your foot flat. So that actually also strengthens your lower body. Yoga is a very good exercise, and there is also quantum yoga we practice that helps with your health, losing weight. But again, properly need to be done. So those are the quick tips. So at the same time, we are not eating healthy, not because of us. It's also not delivering to us, right? There is also, someone says, business part to it. We are being fed a lot, then we are not being fed to make us skinny again. So there is like a both business. We want you to get fat, then we want you to do all this exercise, all this diet system to come down again. We have to be aware of this and make our choices, which is not very easy unless you know about it. There was a saying, like, you are given, you means not your body. Like, you means there is inner you, and your body is a vehicle. So you are given the body so you can enjoy the life, but we do everything else to feed the body necessarily, not ourselves.
People, those who are physically very concerned about their body, and I have found that some of the people, they are using some application, having nutritionists, and they're so concerned about their intake, counting calories every time, eating whatever they're eating. Maybe it's not their best meal. They don't maybe like to have that, but they have to have that because they have to fulfill their target for the day or for the week or for the month. Does it has any effect at the end, like a counter effect in their body, as well as maybe also interesting for Banani Appa, that how it also affect the mental part of it. So food I'm eating because I want to be fit, but that food, I really don't like it, but I have to like it because I'm eating it and I want it to be healthy. So how do you explain this part of those people, those who are really having this sort of?
I would give two a small example. They are my patient. So one patient came, he's really skinny. He eats a lot, but doesn't gain weight. So he went to gym and started deadlifting. Some physical trainer told him that you need to gain weight. He did that, and he, of course, hurt his back, and then he came to me. So then I was finding out, why did you deadlift? Why did you have to lift something heavier than you? He said, no, I wanted to gain muscle because it was difficult. He was not getting any attention from females. So someone asked, you need to be more muscular to get attention. So what I was trying to say, what you are trying to achieve, that affects that way. And there was another patient who was a young girl, like about 13, 14 years old. She lives in Australia, was visiting Bangladesh. And that food, because her family member mentioned about she's being fat. So she stopped eating. And each time she stopped eating in front of others, because as soon as she goes in front of others, she started feeling they're judging her with the food. It's not only mental issue, it became her physical issue, psychological issue. And doctors started doing a scan to find out what's wrong with her. But it felt like the mental part you were talking about, how we are being perceived. They're not necessarily choosing that food. They're being forced, okay, if I do this, maybe I'll lose some weight and maybe I'll be more acceptable. Maybe nobody's going to say fat anymore, right? So it's also the social system of ours. Like, we criticize others without knowing how harmful it could be. Because of that, people sometimes put them through this hardship. But even then, when you have a hardship, you don't really get good result. A lot of people go to gym, they work hard, lose some weight, but as soon as they stop, they gain back. So these are important, that you first change your attitude, make a plan, get help, rather than just being drastic change. It doesn't last very long usually.
I can just add a little bit, Asif. I do remember in one Dr. Dean Ornish, who, we talk about, because he initiated that, taking care of heart disease through lifestyle changes. So when I last was reading about him, I did see that he was recommending something called the spectrum in terms of eating, where he basically was warning people against being very, very rigid with their eating choices. Like, just say, for example, like he was saying that you shouldn't just say, I'm going totally vegetarian from today, because that case is you feel a lot of pressure, like, oh, you're never going to have meat again. So he was like, okay, maybe you can just start out being a vegetarian for 3 days a week, and or something, so that you don't feel that pressure. So you move towards a healthier choice of this in the spectrum, but don't be so rigid, because as you say, that rigidity, that stress has then a negative mental impact. So I have seen other doctors actually mention and actually validate the concern that you expressed.
You're offering food and they just kind of like shocked. No, I cannot have that. It's too much carb into that, or it's too much sugar. On the other hand, like if someone is happily enjoying a food, I believe that they are getting all sort of positive ingredients into that of whatever we eat. If we enjoy eating it, we get more benefit than the negative part of it.
That's why we express thanks before we eat, right?
Yeah.
We have all these customs that we say a little prayer, we express our thanks, so that whatever we're eating, we can really savor, because that really does help get the most nourishment out of what we're eating.
I can mention this, like in every religion, it says that when you eat, be thankful for that. And also in scientific way, there is probably a lot of scientific studies. Like when we are eating, we have to eat consciously. Like in spiritual fitness, we were talking about we should be conscious. So if we take food consciously, then we can see that, okay, after having several bites, we can stop ourselves, because it's conscious.
Yes.
The brain is knowing, okay, it is eating. It's not watching maybe a serial, watching television,
Yes.
and eating. So, I mean, brain is kind of thing that it doesn't work, parallel works. So it's very important to make conscious, to be attentive.
I also heard that something like this, that whenever you look into the food, at the time your mouth creates some kind of like saliva with some kind of enzyme that helps you to digest the food. So that's why it's also very important. I really agree with Tania about that to look at, to put some concentration on the food, enjoy the food that you're having it, and it will definitely have a positive impact on our body, I guess.
Yeah, that is very nice. I mean, that is really nice. And yeah, I think that you brought up an important point, Asif, and that's something that we do mention it, but we probably don't emphasize it enough. But I think it does make a lot of difference.
So as we discussed about mental fitness, I mean, what are the quick way? We know what to do. We know it's difficult, stress out there, but what could be our tool that could be very helpful managing this hard life or difficulties we face every day?
I just have one main point with regard to that. And if all our viewers who are not already doing it, make that one thing a part of their lives, then I am very confident that over time their life will be truly transformed. And that is have a daily meditation practice. You know, everything we were talking about, meditation can help with. It really can. For example, as part of our meditation, we do breath work, right? So we slow down our breathing. And psychologists say, till date, nothing better has been found to change our state of mind from a stressed one to a relaxed one than prolonging our exhale. So what are we doing? Like when we first take deep, long breaths, and we inhale through our nostrils and we exhale through our mouth, and we try to make our exhale longer than our inhale. So simply that state, that breathing, is enough to start a shift in our state of being. When we are stressed, it's not just a mental thing. Certain physical things are happening in our body. So when we're stressed, basically we're in the fight or flight mode. So when we were in the jungle, our main threat was being attacked by other animals. So again, to give that example of the tiger, if we go and I meet a tiger, what are my ways of escaping? A, what choices do I have? A, I can either fight the tiger, which is not maybe very realistic. B, I can run away, so fight or flight. Or in extreme cases, like I just stay still, just hope that nothing will happen. And even if something happens, I don't lose too much blood or something. So that's freeze. So when we're stressed, we're in fight, flight, or freeze state. And as we're saying that this fight, flight, or freeze state causes 75% of the modern day diseases that we see, being in that state for too long. And the thing is, even though we're not in the jungle anymore, even if we get a phone call and we think, oh my God, why am I getting a phone call so late at night? It must be some bad news. Our body still goes into that state. So what happens when we're meditating and we are relaxing our body is our body goes into a different state. So when we're in the fight, flight, or freeze state, our sympathetic nervous systems are active, our muscles become very tense, our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up, all the blood goes from, goes to our hands and limbs so that we can run away, and then digestion, fertility, brain, all these things are not really, the blood supply is not there because we're not trying to use them. We're just trying to either fight or flight. But when we're breathing and we're practicing relaxation meditation, the exact opposite happens in our body. So our muscles become very relaxed, our heart rate goes down, the blood flow goes to all parts of our body. And when we're in the fight or flight state, there are certain hormones like adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, that is, that there's increased flow of. But when we're meditating, all these decrease, and then there are other neurotransmitters like serotonin and other neurotransmitters that give us a feeling of well-being. The flow of those things are increased. So a daily meditation practice will help us train our body to go from the stressed state to the relaxed state. Stress state, relaxed state, stress state, relaxed state. Every day you're doing that. And once you are trained in that, you can even do it even when you're not meditating. Like not following the formal processes. You can do that in every situation. Like, okay, I'm getting stressed. I need to relax. Maybe you just do a few deep breaths or think some good thoughts. So that is something that is really, really important. But meditation is not just related to eliciting the relaxation response. You were talking about your patients who was this lady who I felt so sad about, who was carrying this trauma from her abuse in the first 5 years of her marriage, long after it had passed. And so this lady, she didn't know how to let go. But, we have meditations that help us release pent-up emotions. We have meditations that help us release sadness. We have meditations that help us release anger. We have meditations that help us release guilt and shame. So meditation is taking control of your mind, learning how to let go of things that are not serving you anymore, that are not helpful for you anymore. But it is all just so much more, I can go deeper and deeper and deeper. But if you just do this one thing, just try it. And especially our meditations, they're just really easy. They're almost too easy, I would say. You just have to click and lie down or sit up and listen. And you just do whatever is told, and that's it. And you just imagine certain really nice things. Whatever you're not maybe getting in reality, you imagine in your own mind and have some good thoughts and some positive thoughts. And you just come away with it in a calm state, in a happy state. You feel grounded again, and you feel like you can face whatever's coming your way. So I thought about it, and I just decided, like, no, like if this one thing people do, it will change your life. And there's just so much more. It's something, if you go visualize, becomes imprinted in your subconscious mind, and then it becomes much easier to attain your goal. So that is another specific meditation technique. So you start from relaxation by so many things, and then if you are spiritual, you want to progress spiritually, then there are other meditations. One of our current world meditation advocates, like, how would you define meditation? And he said, the best definition I had was, it is a meeting with yourself. So I just want to tell our viewers, it's time to have a meeting with yourself. It's time to meet yourself. So take some time and give meditation a try if you're not already doing it.
So we are so busy running after things, we forget to ask ourselves, how are we? Like, we ask others, like, how are you feeling? But we forget to ask. So this time, what you spend for meditation, you are actually giving it to yourself. And Absolutely. When you give time to anybody, they work best. When you give time to yourself, you work at your best.
Yes. And, like Asif was talking about, like being the kind of person we want to meet. But we can only be giving when we ourselves are filled. First, we need to give ourselves love, and then we can give other people love, right? And that's what you can do. You can give yourself love and attention and care.
Banani, this is the law of nature, and that's what we were talking about when you asked me the definition of spiritual fitness, right? So what you're giving, you will have it. So I was in Netherlands. I was staying there for half of the year, you can say. So while I was looking for my accommodation, it was a little bit hilly area, and I lost. Sunset was there. It finished the time, and then after several minutes, I found a girl who came to me and asked me about what I'm looking for, and then she wants to help me, and then both of us looking for that accommodation. Unfortunately, the Google Maps was not working on the time, and it showed us the wrong direction. So she was with me 1 hour, and she was with me. She didn't even ask that she wanted to leave on that time. So after 1 hour, we got our accommodation. So that is the law of nature, which which want to give you back when is your time, when it is needed. And mentally peaceness and all things are very much interconnected. We really cannot say that, hey, this is not very much important. But it
Yes.
starts with, even though it starts with spiritual fitness, but it like flows like a river.
Yeah, it's a combined whole, and there are just different aspects to it. So let me come to Asif. Asif, what would you recommend? Because we had a long talk about social fitness today. So if our viewers are like, okay, I need to change this part of my life, I don't know where to start, can you give them some simple strategies for starting their journey towards social fitness?
Yes, absolutely. I have a very, very long list of to-dos. No, I'm kidding, of course. Actually, it depends. As we see that what are the social attributes we'd like to have in others, to see in others. And that we talk about empathy, sympathy, we talked about kindness, we talked about listener, good listener. So we wanted to have all, like whatever we talk about being a human being. And this thing, you could say, okay, I have this and this, but maybe not that, right? So for individual, it's a very individual requirement. So to sum it up, we could say in a very simple 3-step solution, okay? So we talked about physical fitness, and then, in physical fitness, we try to build our muscle. So here in social fitness, we're gonna build our social muscle. And how to do that? We could make some very small step, and it could start with greetings. Even when we see someone, we greet. Wherever, it can be anywhere. It can be your neighbor, it can be your friend, it can be whoever you're seeing. You could just smile, nod. It can be verbal, it can be just as a sign. It can be anything. You could say, no, but I'm not that much, I'm very introvert, I don't like to talk to people. Okay, take it very easy. Whoever you feel comfortable, say hi. You could go for a different campaign, like a hello campaign, like seeing people or whoever, or even we have some salam campaigns. So whenever you see people, you give salam, and so on and so forth. So just start small step. If you're very scared of saying hi to strangers or anyone, start with the person that you are very comfortable with. Maybe even with yourself, say good morning to yourself, and then start with your family members, okay? So that is the first thing. Second thing is, now we are trying to build our social muscle, and now we will have to increase it, right? So it's like, now it's the time to do some body lifting. And how can we do that? We use some kind of like proactive affirmation sentences. So we call it auto-suggestion. So we can use some of our auto-suggestions wherever I feel it's needed. For example, you say, no, I'm really hesitant to say hello to people. Okay, so maybe I'm not really good at it. Talk to yourself every day. Then you can tell yourself that I'm greeting everyone with a genuine smile. Just say to yourself 10 times, 15 times, 20, whenever you get time. Tell yourself, I'm greeting everyone with a genuine smile. That's all. That's auto-suggestion will help you to build your muscle more faster, okay? Mm-hmm. It will give a boost on your social confidence. And number 3 is to keep it up. Our first muscle, and to building social muscle or social confidence much more better, we have to keep it up. And to keep it up, to make it sustainable, what we could do is to focus on us, okay? To detoxic ourselves from anything that is hindering us to do something. So when we do there is to take some moment, take some time, and try to release those negative thoughts that is like making us not to be socially fit. So that could be our shyness, that could be our, you say like, okay, I get angry a little bit faster. Focus on that, try to see on others and see that how they are doing it. And then you try to also adapt the good things from them, or focus on yourself. And you could say, how should I do much better into that? To heal your trauma, to heal because sometimes you could say that, yeah, but I have, negative emotions from my childhood and I can not really help on that. Calm down, sit down and focus on yourself and try to heal try to evaluate yourself and realize that, okay, how can I make myself more better?
Yes.
Whenever you're meeting people, try to imagine that how I'm going to meet and how I'm going to talk to them. So these
Yes.
3 steps, I believe that would be our very first step to become much more socially fit, and we could really enjoy our very beautiful life.
Very
the
nice.
bottom line is just to get connected,
Yes.
connected with socially with others.
Yes.
And the most important part here is that those who of us, we have families, the first thing we do is ignoring them. We take them aside and then try to focus on something else. Focus on your family, focus on your friends, your close ones. That would help you a lot in to become socially fit.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the reasons why we talk so much about social fitness today is because we're trying to create this awareness amongst our viewers to take the social life seriously, to take the family seriously, so that, because we sometimes, those of us who have it, take it for granted, right? And as you just said, but if we make a conscious choice to nurture those relationships, whether it's our spouse, our parents, our extended family, being in touch with our, say, I have my nuclear family, but being in touch with my parents more would make a difference to both my parents and my children. There are plenty of studies that show that when grandparents are involved in children's life, both grandparents and children benefit. Children experience much less stress, especially if their parents are going through some stress. The grandparents help buffer it, like a close relationship with the grandparents buffer the stress from the kids. They experience less stress. At the same time, if a grandparent has a close relationship with a grandchild, they tend to live longer. They tend to have less physical ailments because it gives them purpose and happiness and connection. So yeah, I think you are right. The number one thing is to make that choice to nurture our social connections, and then the things you say are like steps towards attaining those goals.
Interestingly, here I can add a point. Like Sweden is introducing the new plan. Like they want to ask people so that the elderly, the senior citizens, or the family who are like elderly people, they can stay with the children. Like you can imagine the older system we had in Bangladesh, right? We used to grow up by our grandfather and grandmother, even though maybe we have father like at the same time in family, but he's used to busy with his works. So this kind of family structure really helps to grow the kids, and it can help the whole generation. I can remember those experiences right now. So I think it's a wonderful idea.
It is. It's very interesting that's really praiseworthy. Tania, since you have been talking about spiritual fitness, what would you recommend for someone, some easy steps for someone who wants to get in touch with their spirit, who wants to experience the benefits of being spiritually fit?
Being spiritual is not difficult at all, because from the day we born, we are spiritual. This is the spiritual journey we are going on. So it's already on. And being spiritual means very simple for me. I can give an example. Like every morning when I get up, I thanks to God. I also ask myself, hey, you got a new day, so you must be grateful. So this gratefulness is a very important thing. Like being grateful means that I'm a positive person. A negative person cannot be grateful, right? So as we are talking about all the positiveness towards life, being gratefulness is the one important pillar to become spiritually fit. So, and it can connect to ourselves, to our bigger ourselves. or our inner self or to the nature. Second thing I do in the morning before I take my breakfast, I want to make sure that even I do it before I drink the hot water. Like I drink water every morning. So I donate. I think charity is very important. So I just start my day with these two things, and it helps me a lot, you know. And
yeah, charity, you brought up gratitude, which is of course very central, and you also brought up charity and just being a giving person. And I think anyone in any stage of life can at any moment can make this shift from what do I want, what do I need, to what can I give. There's some really interesting research studies on the effect of charity. It's very interesting because as human beings, we think one thing will make us happy, but we are often not very accurate about what will make us happy. So there is this researcher from the University of British Columbia in Canada. Her name is Elizabeth Dunn. So around the time 2007, 2008, she did this really interesting study. So she gave some students a little bit of money, between say $5 to $20, and then she randomly divided them into two groups and told one group, you spend it on yourself, whatever you want, spend it on yourself. You guys have to spend it on other people. And before she did that, she assessed their happiness levels. So she assessed their happiness levels, and then she did that. So then after a while, once the money had been spent, she assessed their happiness levels as well again. And then what she found was the people who had spent it on others experienced a surge of happiness that lasted for quite a long time. And the people who spent it on themselves did not experience a similar surge of happiness. The interesting thing is, if you ask most people would say, yeah, if I buy that one thing, that one candy, that would make me happy. But they would predict that spending on themselves to make them happy. But what actually happened was spending on others made them happier. So giving, charity, is this thing that instantly turns us into a giver, also instantly reminds us that we are connected to a bigger whole. None of us are isolated, and it respects that connection. So I think what you're recommending, charity, and I know that charity doesn't have to be just money, it can be anything, right? But
yes,
I think
it
that's
can be
very
anything.
valuable.
And I can add some points to you. Like if we look at the nature, what it gives to us, it never asks to return. Or look, like the oxygen you're taking, maybe the same oxygen is moving to the world and coming to me. So we cannot make any border that, hey, this is my portion of oxygen, I don't want to share with you, but it's in the nature and we have to share anyway. So this is like, nature is always giving. Or look at the flow of the water. It just flows, it never stops. So charity, donation, when we are giving, we are opening the door in our inner self, So when we open the door, then we can find the key of the happiness. It's very important. And you will find the things when you need it, just like magic. But it's not the magic, but you'll find it in a way.
Yeah, you reminded, I can't help myself. I have to, what you said about the river, and you reminded me of this quote by Hafiz, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look at what happens with a love like that. It lights up the whole sky. So yeah, so universal love. And it's I know it sounds lofty, but it's possible.
Meditation is a powerhouse. This is the powerhouse for me. So if a person starts to do meditation, then he or she can't stop to do that, because every time we do meditation, we reconnect ourselves to the inner bigger self. And time by time, it gives us the purpose, the meaning, and that's how our life can fly. Recently, I have read an Harvard article. So it suggested that it is very helpful to keep a journal. So keeping a journal for myself, that means I write down every day what I have done, just in details, good or bad, not judgmental, just writing it down. So at night, when I see my journals, what I have done previous days and days before, that gives me an impression that what things should be changed, which kind of work I could be done in different way. So this kind of correctness, when it comes to me, so day by day, definitely I will be more positive and more successful. And even though it comes out from Harvard studies, but you know the famous Sufi Sheikh Sadi, he told us before to do that. So every night we should just think about that what I have done in the day. If I do misbehave with somebody, maybe I can correct it on the next day, and maybe I can say sorry, and then I will feel great, right? So this kind of things really help.
And then at the end of the day, you know, you learn your lessons, you decide what you'll do differently, and you forgive yourself and everybody else, right? I mean, let's not hold on to, like, let's not be too strict on ourselves. We're all growing.
Just adding to Tania's one comment there, it's about what you mentioned about meditation. It doesn't really require that you have to be, if you are religious, if you are spiritual or not, or regardless of anything, any background, it is really important to connect or talk to yourself. Who am I and what I can do, or what I would like to do. Just to know yourself, it's very important to get connected to yourself. It's nothing about anything. It's just about you, yourself. It's myself, it's me, and I want to connect with myself. And that's a nice tool that you sit down, look into yourself, talk to yourself. This is very own time. I believe that everyone deserves it, at least even 10 minutes a day, to talk to yourself. And that really helps a lot. Making decisions, thinking about yourself, and most importantly, to know what I can do, what are the power I am having, what are the resources I'm having, and how I can better use of them.
For Aristotle, like the father of many things, so he used to say that know thyself. So knowing myself is starting of all knowing. And that is why we talk about meditation and the total.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think our viewers will understand that all of us love meditating. You know, we're all talking about it. So I think we had a very interesting discussion. Lots of good points came up. Since we talked about meditation, we talked about yoga, I want to take a moment to show our viewers our website, where we have auto suggestions, we have some yoga postures, we have some meditations that our viewers can start right away. So if you give me a moment, I will share my screen and I will show our viewers our website. So so here you can see our website. It's the address is very simple. It's quantummethod.org, quantum method, one word. And if you come here, you see that we start with awaken your inner power. And there's a little button called start your journey. So if you click on that button, you just get a brief description of how to prepare to meditate. So basically, this will give you all the necessary information you need to just get ready to meditate. And it's really simple. And then if you scroll down, you will see that there are a few meditations here. We usually recommend you start out with easy relaxation. It's easy, as it's mentioned in the title. We have the future, which is for goal visualization. We have a happiness meditation that's really wonderful. So, you know, you can, by going to this website, you can start your meditation practice today. And then also today we mentioned auto suggestions or affirmations, as you would call it. Asif mentioned a nice one. You will see like your lovely affirmations or auto suggestions that you can practice daily if you're interested in. Here you see a very nice picture of our teacher, our guru, and you will learn a little bit about how quantum started. Lots of stories, because we were just talking about total fitness, like we really didn't go into literally the millions of lives that's been transformed by these things, by meditation, by changing mindset, and all these things, what we in a word we call quantum method. But you will see like how much it made a difference it made to so many lives. A section on quantum yoga where you can learn about yoga postures, a section on our various charitable activities. So basically we get together and we try to practice what we preach. So we try to do, whatever charitable programs we can undertake, we undertake. So right now we have a lot. We have some answers, very insightful answers to questions, some articles related to every sphere of life, related to meditation, mental health, relationships, physical health. So it's a very simple website, but it will give you it will get you to a place where you can start your journey today easily. So I hope go to our website if you're interested. And again, the address is quantummethod.org. So that's it. And I really do think we had a very good discussion today. I don't know how much of it we will be able to keep, but I think there were some wonderful points, and whoever has taken the time to listen to this talk will have many things to think about, and also many simple steps that they can follow right away. And I want to actually end with thanking all of you. I think Abdullah Bhai, Asif, Tania, it has been wonderful to have you here, and I have done programs with you before, but I think today everybody just spoke so much from the heart that it's really been, for me as a participant, a wonderful experience just to be a part of this discussion. And I think our viewers will feel the enjoyment we felt in taking part in this discussion. So I really thank you all.
So thank you everyone for staying with us. And today we are celebrating Total Fitness Day. And whoever listened mentioned to others. And we hope to see you in the future in more elaborate discussion on a specific topics.
Yes, thank you very much for this wonderful time, and also to listen to us. And I'm sure that we will be definitely achieve this total fitness. Do not forget the social fitness one is very important, along with mental, physical, and spiritual. And just be connected with everybody. Okay, that's the spirit. Thank you very much.
Whoever have watched our session, I hope you have get some insights how to be fit in this 4 aspects of life. So this is the way how we can let our life to fly, right? And spiritual fitness is very important. We all have discussed and listened to it. So let us give us the opportunity to ourselves to fly, not crawl. So live the moment, not let it go. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And I hope all of us attain total fitness. And because one thing cannot really be attained without the other, as we discussed today. So, and I just want to tell our viewers, and I wanted to say this in the end, that in Quantum, every time we begin a new year, we also celebrate Quantum's birthday, Quantum Foundation's birthday, because it started on 1st January of a year. From this year, we are celebrating Total Fitness Day, because that's what we have been trying to do all these years. We have been trying to tell people that your life is a holistic thing, and you cannot really be successful in life if you ignore a part of it. And quantum method is the way to really fulfill all aspects of your life. And if you want to learn more, please keep in touch. Please keep in touch with this page, this Quantum Method International page, where we will hopefully come up with, not hopefully, we're confident that we will come up with more videos and more in-depth conversations and more teachings and tools for you, so that you can drastically transform your life for the better. If you're interested, please go ahead and like and subscribe this page, because then you will know when we have a new video for you, which we will have shortly. And if you have really made it to the end of this discussion, it proves that you are someone who is really, really interested in improving your life. And I want to congratulate you for that, because that itself is a very, very good sign. And we wish you all the best for 2003. And we hope that you attain total fitness and use that fitness to make the very, very best of your life. Thank you so much.